Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Laura and I like to make stuff, craft stuff. I am excited because I have been dreaming of this quilt for a very long time, specifically with these two colors. A while back I saw a art print at a funky local store that was smiley faces in these two colors, and they were going back and forth, switching with the colors like halfway through the face. I hope that makes sense, but I was thinking, wouldn't that be fun to do as a quilt? And obviously I can't sew circles, so it's not going to be a smiley face, but I was kind of thinking of doing a Minnesota star, but I decided instead to pull out my 1000 Great Quilt Blocks by Maggie McCormick Gordon that I got used, and I want to try this one, which is called Annie's Choice. I think that it'll look great because it's supposed to be kind of geometric, I guess, and contrasting with the design, but I think it'll be even better in the pink and orange. And I know that they're very close in tone, but I don't care. It's my quilt, and I love these two colors together so much. Very mod. That's what I'm kind of the vibe I'm going for. My intention is for the stars to kind of flip the layout on where the orange is and where the pink is, to still have that homage to the poster that inspired this all. I'm not going off of the sizing that she has in here. Her sizing, she has it as 2.5 inches. I'm gonna do 6-inch squares. I'm going to cut them out 6 inches to make them into half square triangles, because the entire thing is half squares. And then I am going to trim them down to be 5-inch squares. So they will be, the final thing when I'm sewing the actual block together will be 5-inch squares. I think that'll work. I have 5 yards here of each color, which should be more than enough. So I'm just gonna get to it. The first thing I have to do is iron, because I've had this fabric for a little bit, excited to use it and make this, so I need to iron them. Yeah, that'll be the first step. And then cutting, and then you know the rest. So stick along if you want to see how this turns out. Like and subscribe if you want to. So the process that I used was basically just putting the 2 squares of the 2 different colors on top of each other and sewing corner to corner 2 different lines, and then cutting them out to make my half squares. And this was pretty much the entire quilt. All I had to do was that. The next step after that, of course, was ironing them open. I don't pay super close attention to my seams and which direction they're going, because I usually try to nestle as I'm sewing them together. And that would require usually multiple sessions of ironing. And I don't feel like doing that much ironing. I do enjoy it. Not that much. And then the next step after that was, of course, to trim them down, as I said. So my space is limited for working specifically on my quilts. But I got something to stabilize my cutting mat, and I'm really excited about it, but it was not in this video, so but nevertheless, super easy again. This overall quilt was actually pretty easy, but it winds up looking really complicated. here are the final layouts for the blocks. So I did 2 different kinds of blocks. I basically changed the layout block per block on which colors were where, so that they would be alternating in the final design. And here I am laying them out. It's basically a 16 patch. And so I sewed them together in 2 rows, or 2 columns rather. And then I chain pieced them so that I could nestle them as I went down the row. You'll see kind of when I flip them over, I start by sewing down the long seam and then going across the columns. I'm certain that if you are watching my video, you're probably knowing what you're doing with quilting. So you can do this process however you choose to do it. But here I am, I'm folding them so I can figure out, keep them in the right order, and then chain piece them. And I really, again, have I said that this quilt was super easy? This quilt was super easy. It was a really quick quilt to put together, and yet the final design and the final layout really does look complex, which is awesome. So here's the one side done, and I am flipping over the other side of it to do the same process. And then I will sew those 2 pieces together, and that's how I did my blocks. I always try to make sure that when I'm aligning my pieces, especially for a larger block, I'm starting my alignment at the center. This particular one got a little wonky, but most of the time it works out perfectly once aligned from the center. Not always. I feel like I did a better job of paying attention to my seam allowances on this quilt, and so the overall finished product did align a lot better as a result. And of course, here I am ironing them so that they are perfectly flat. And I have been doing a lot more ironing lately in between my steps because it does help. It does help quite a lot. Once I'm done ironing all of these, I will have my blocks laid out just like this. I basically do the process larger and larger. So we have 4 squares here, and I will be sewing them just the way I did the blocks. Flip them over on one side and then flip them to the other. I made 2 columns in the end from those 4 square final blocks that I had in the larger pattern. There was an area in which I had an alignment issue, but because I did 2 strips, I decided to match it on the other strip. So in the center of the quilt, or close to the center, there's actually a little ripple of a design change, and I think it winds up looking really cool. I'm proud that I incorporated my mistake like that, because it was a little frustrating noticing that it was flipped wrong, but ultimately it worked out in the end. I did lay them out so that they were alternating every other, and then the block beneath it would be the alternate of the block itself, so it was staggered every row, kind of like a chessboard. But here it is, the final result. I really love this quilt. I was at one point advised to incorporate some black into it, and I am actually really glad I didn't, because of the effect of the whole quilt in the end. I love that it has the secondary pattern of like arrows. I just think it looks so cool. I believe this quilt might be one of the nicest and most aligned that I've ever made, even with the little blip that happens 2 rows in. I'm just really proud of this quilt. I really like this quilt. I can't wait for it to be finished and on my bed. This is definitely for me. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I post every other Tuesday, or I try to anyway. So if you want to join me on future craft explorations, probably quilts, like, subscribe, you know, all that good stuff. If you know this quilt design by another name, let me know, because I like to look up after the fact what other designs have been done similar in the same pattern, like what other color choices. Also, I would recommend teal and lime green. That if I were to ever do this pattern again, I would do it in teal and lime green. Okay. I think that's enough for now. I will let you guys go, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye!